New build or resale? It's one of the first questions that come up with almost every buyer I work with in Calgary. And honestly, it's one of the ones where I see people make the biggest assumptions before they've actually thought it through. In this video, I'm going to break down both options, give you an honest case for each one, and help you figure out which one is the right choice for your situation, not which sounds better on paper. Which one actually fits your timeline, your budget, and the way you want to live. Let's get into it. Quick note before we dive in, if you're at the point where you're seriously weighing this decision and want someone who knows Calgary's builders and resale market to help you think it through, reach out. My contact info and free home buyer guide are in the description below. All right, let's talk about new build versus resale. Before I get into the pros and the cons, I want to give you some context about why this decision is a bit different in Calgary than it is in most major other Canadian cities. Calgary has one of the most active and new construction markets in the country right now. In 2025, Calgary actually surpassed Toronto for total housing starts for the first time, which tells you something about the pace of development here. The growth is happening across multiple parts of the city. The Southeast has the most concentration of new community development, with communities like Hotchkiss, Logan Landing, Sora, Rangeview actively building out. The Northeast has been growing fast too, with communities like Homestead and Lewiston. Southwest is also catching up. So buyers in Calgary have a genuine choice between new and resale across multiple quadrants and price points. Compare that to Toronto, where new construction is dominated by condos and purpose-built rentals. If you're a buyer in Toronto looking for a new detached or semi-detached homes, your options are quite limited and you're often pushed well out into the suburbs. In Calgary, ground-oriented new builds, detached homes, laned homes, and townhomes are all available at multiple price points across the city. That's a meaningful difference in what the decision actually looks like. The other important context is that Calgary's real estate market has been softening slightly heading into 2026, with more inventory available than recent years. That's actually going to be good news for resale buyers. More supply means more negotiating room and less pressure to rush into a decision. So both sides of the equation are genuinely worth considering. All right, let me start with new builds and make an honest case for them, because there are good reasons why a lot of buyers go this route. The most obvious one is that everything's new. New materials, new mechanical systems, new appliances, modern layouts designed for how people actually want to live today. Open concept kitchens, primary suites with en-suites, double car garages, energy efficient windows and insulation. I mean, compare that to a resale home built in the 1990s or the early 2000s, and the difference in daily livability is real. New builds in Calgary also typically come with a home warranty. In Alberta, new home warranties are required by law and cover things like defects in material and workmanship in the first year, delivery and distribution systems for a longer period, and major structural components for up to 10 years. That warranty protection gives you a meaningful safety net in the early years of ownership that you simply don't get with resale. Customization is another genuine advantage. If you get in early enough with a builder, you can often choose your own finishes. Things like flooring, countertop, cabinet colors, fixtures. You're not inheriting somebody else's taste or having to budget for renovations right after you move in. For some buyers, starting fresh in a space that reflects their own choices matters a lot. And in Calgary specifically, new builds are often located in communities with new infrastructure. New roads, new parks, new school sites, new commercial development coming in. You're buying into a trajectory, not just a house. The bet is that the community continues to develop around you, which in Calgary's growing southeast and northwest corridors has generally proven to be a good bet. Here's the part I always make sure all my clients understand. Not all Calgary builders are created equal. Build quality varies significantly across the city, and this is something I feel strongly about based on 15 years of watching these builders work. Some produce genuinely well-constructed homes. Others cut corners on material, rush timelines, and have warranty services that are slow or difficult to navigate. The price per square foot and the showroom can look identical between two builders, and the quality of what you're actually getting can be very different. Knowing which builders I'd recommend and which ones I'd steer you clear of is one of the most valuable things I bring to this conversation, and it's a knowledge you can't replicate with a Google search. There's one thing about new builds in Calgary that catches a lot of buyers off guard, and I want to spend a moment on it because it affects your budget, in a way that isn't always upfront. When you're looking at a new build price from the builder, that price is almost never the final number. Upgrades are a significant additional cost. The base model in most Calgary new builds are functional but basic. If you want engineered hardwood flooring instead of vinyl plank, quartz countertops instead of laminate countertops, higher end fixtures, finished basements, the additions mount up pretty quickly, and a lot of my clients have seen upgrades in the range of $60,000 to $100,000 to the base price on top of what they originally expected to pay. There's also the question of the timeline. New builds take time. If you're buying a new home that hasn't broken ground yet, you could be looking at 12 to 15 months before you can move in, sometimes longer. During that time, you need somewhere to live, which adds cost. Add in builder timelines in Calgary, as in any market, can slip. So build that buffer into your planning. GST is another one that people forget. New construction homes in Canada are subject to GST. There is a partial rebate available for homes under a certain threshold, but for homes above that threshold, you're paying GST on the purchase price. On a $750,000 home, that's not a trivial amount, so make sure that you factored that in. Now let's talk about resale, because there's a genuinely strong case for it, and I think that it gets underplayed in a lot of these conversations. The most immediate advantage is the certainty. With a resale home, you know exactly what you're getting. You can walk through it, inspect it, see how the light falls in the afternoon, see how the street feels, and what the neighborhood is like. There's no imagination required. What you see on possession day is what you live in. For buyers who have been burned by uncertainty before, or who prefer to know exactly what they're committing to, that predictability is worth a lot. Resale homes in Calgary's established communities offer something that newer communities simply can't yet provide: maturity. Mature trees lining the streets, schools that have been operating for years with a proven track record, commercial strips that are fully built out, a neighborhood identity that has formed over time. Communities like Tuscany, Mackenzie Lake, Auburn Bay, they have depth of character that newer developments are still working towards. Negotiation is another real advantage with resale. In the current Calgary market, where resale inventory has been building, buyers have more room to negotiate than they did 2 or 3 years ago. You can negotiate the price, the possession date, and the inclusions inside the home. You could also make offers with conditions for things like inspection and financing, giving you proper due diligence time. Builder contracts for new builds are not negotiable in the same way. The price is what it is, and the terms are largely set by the builder. Resale also gives you immediate possession in most cases. If your situation requires you to move within, say, 30 to 90 days, resale can accommodate that. New builds often cannot. For people selling a property in Toronto and needing to land in Calgary on a tight timeline, that speed to possession time matters. Now, resale isn't without its own risks. The big one is you don't know until you know it. An older home can have issues that aren't visible during a walkthrough, and that even a home inspection can miss. Things like roof condition, plumbing, electrical, insulation standards from older building codes, foundational issues in some cases. These are things you need to take seriously and budget for. This is why I always recommend a professional home inspection on any resale purchase. Not just a walkthrough, a proper inspection by a qualified inspector who understands Alberta building standards. The cost of a good building inspection is around $500. The cost of a missed issue in a home is tens of thousands, so it's not a place to cut corners. Older homes in Calgary can also have higher ongoing maintenance costs than a brand new build. Systems age, things need replacing. That's a trade-off for the maturity and the established feel of an older community. It's not a reason to avoid resale, but it's a number you should have inside your budget. So how do you actually make this decision? Here's the framework I use with my clients. If timeline flexibility is your biggest constraint, resale wins. If you need to be in a home within 60 to 90 days, new construction usually can't accommodate that unless there happens to be a quick possession spec home available from the builder. If customization and starting fresh matters the most to you and you have time to wait, new builds have a real advantage, especially if you're particular about what finishes you don't want to inherit from somebody else's renovation choices. One thing that doesn't get talked about enough with new builds in developing communities is what happens when you need to sell in the first few years. If you buy into a community that's still actively building out and life throws a curveball, a job change, a growing family, or whatever it may be, you'll be potentially listing your resale home at the same time the builder is still selling brand new homes right down the street. And a buyer choosing between your used home and a brand new one from the builder at a similar price will often choose the new build. That competitive dynamic is real, and it's something to factor into your thinking if there's any choice your timeline could change within the first 5 years. If the community matters more than the house, think carefully about which side of the equation that pushes you towards. New communities offer future potential and modern design. Established communities offer proven infrastructure, mature character, and a neighborhood identity that's already been formed. If build quality is a concern and you're thinking about new construction, this is where having good representation really matters. My knowledge of which Calgary builders consistently delivers and the ones that don't is directly applicable here. It's not about avoiding new builds, it's about choosing the right builder within that option. And if you're genuinely undecided, which is perfectly normal, that's what the exploratory conversation's for. Every buyer's situation is going to be different. The right answer is going to depend on your timeline, your lifestyle priorities, your budget, including the hidden costs on both sides, and what trade-offs you're actually willing to make. I'd rather spend 30 minutes helping you think this through than having you commit to the wrong path. That's the honest new build versus resale breakdown for Calgary in 2026. Both options are going to have real merit. The right one is going to depend on you. If you haven't already watched my video on the biggest mistakes people make when buying in Calgary, that's the one I pair specifically with this. It goes deeper on builder quality and the Alberta contract process specifically. I'm going to link it here. And if you want to talk through your specific situation, my free home buyer guide and the Calendly booking link are both in the description below. I'm happy to help you figure out which path makes sense for you. I'll see you in the next one.